We do have people from pretty much all over the world, so always interesting, always exciting. I will say, I'll start by saying that I appreciate everyone for joining. This is our first episode in our second series. Our first series, I think a lot of you guys have actually already spoke to directly. I see Gilad joined us as well. Great to see you. I see some familiar names as well. This is what I love in those type series. We're doing it very, very, close as personal as we like to say, but bottom line, it's all about providing as much value as possible. So first of all, thank you for everyone for coming. I know some of you have either met me before or have introduced, briefly, and now we're here. So with that being said, we're going to start in just a couple of minutes. I would ask in the meantime, since we're kind of spread out throughout all my LinkedIn super connections, if you don't mind, write in the chat, where are you from? I would say state or country, whichever. And then if you do like to make some connections, as I always do, feel free to throw in your LinkedIn link as well in there. I'll start with, and I'm usually in Orlando, Florida. And I will say that for some of you have heard this crazy story, but I'm actually right now in Israel after a quick family emergency. Stuff happens, but in Israel for the next about 3, 4 weeks, and then coming right back to Orlando and traveling around as I always do. So Orlando, Florida. Let's see you guys in the chat. Where are you from? And then we're going to start in just a couple minutes. I think we have a good amount of Floridians here, by the way. So we'll see about that. Awesome. I see Ralph joined us. Ralph, thank you for coming. Serena, was lovely connecting with you as well. There you go. I remembered we had another one, Miami there. Lena, good to see you as well. All right. I will say that we're very excited to work on this webinar series. I'll give you a little bit of an idea. Our first series was really focused on implementation of AI into new businesses, right? Very exciting. We had a lot of fun stuff there. In general, we try to keep it as high engagement as possible. So, like I told many of you, I would love for you to engage, ask questions in the chat, raise hands. This is really kind of a fireside chat. I'll be the moderator, but I'm extremely excited for the speakers we have. Starting off on our first episode with three people that, I joke around. Some of you have heard me say it, but the calls I usually have in intros are either my worst or best part of the week. And I can tell you that all these three were absolutely amazing, interesting conversations that I finished smiling from, but mostly learning from, which was, very, very exciting for me. So we have three amazing speakers with us today. I'll give you a very quick kind of a preface to, what we're going to talk about, and then we're going to jump right into the conversations with the speakers. And then afterwards, we're going to get some engagement going, a few questions in the chat. Our mission here is to make sure that there's zero hype, zero trends. It's extremely focused about how can AI be implemented and applied into existing businesses, whether it's tech or non-tech, by the way, just as important, and really how to think about it as well. So very interesting conversation. With that said, I'm going to give it about 1 more minute, and then we're going to get started. I see also Pablo joined us. Good to see you, buddy. Samir, great to have you. Gabriel Chan, good to see you as well. Awesome. We got a good crowd going on, so I would love to see the engagement going. I'll start with giving you a little bit of an idea. By the way, anyone that can, please, by all means, turn on cameras. I don't like my own voice as much, so would love to see you guys and make it conversational. There you go. Thank you. I would say from that, kind of starting off with understanding why it's so important, the way that we look at AI today, and then really how does it apply into specifically into businesses. So, most efforts in AI fail before they even start. I want you to think about the fact that this is really not focused about trends. It's about walking through real business bottlenecks, how AI is already replacing manual work inside companies, and then really how most companies, fail not because of technology, but because they start in the wrong place. I always like to bring this up. Henry Ford said famously, if I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. All I can tell you from my perspective, and again, this is mostly from learning from you guys, is really the fact that we are right now surrounded with hype. Everybody talks about AI. There's such a growing FOMO about it. Businesses are looking on how to implement AI, and I would be very, very clear to say that a lot of them are lost in the frameworks and how to look at it. This is really the webinar that's focused on solving that problem, making it extremely clear, providing clarity around that, and then making sure that you can understand how to apply AI into a business in the right framework. That's why we have the right speakers here. I want to start with a quick intro. I will say that I come from the industry, very happy to be. I am the COO of Remotebase. We're a company that does staff augmentation. Um, Started from, focused on providing devs for technical companies, and now we have shifted our focus as well to helping implement specifically in AI solutions as well. One of our bigger vendors or bigger clients actually is also one of our speakers here, which is going to be very interesting to kind of see that flow. But on the other side of things, I am also the founder of Strive, which is basically a mentorship platform that quietly uses AI and actually focuses on personal feedback. That's why the feedback that we're going to get from the speakers here has been extremely exciting for me. With that being said, I want to start with a quick intro from each one of the speakers. Let's start with you, Qasim, if you don't mind.
Yes, yes. So firstly, thank you so much, Gal, for putting all of this together. I'm really, really excited. I'm the founder of Ember AI. So essentially what we do is we build a centralized AI hub for companies that they use to build their own internal AI applications. So what that means is companies that have a lot of routine tasks, repetitive tasks, a lot of human time is consumed within those tasks. We come in and we build internal AI applications to automate those tasks. So we're currently working with a bunch of companies. One of our bigger customers is one of the largest law firms in the world, where we come in, extract different tasks that they do that are repetitive, that have to go through tons and tons of documentation, and we automate those by having AI do perform those tasks for them and saving them like tons of hours. On average, the time saved is pretty mind blowing. It's like anywhere from 50 to 90% of time and money is saved, because then the AI can sort of do these tasks pretty automated in a pretty automated way. And happy to talk more about that in detail later.
Perfect. Yes, and we'll definitely dive into some examples. Keep in mind, everyone, that this is going to be rooted specifically around examples, and we got some very exciting ones around. Gilad, how you doing? Good to see you again.
Yeah, great to see you too. So a bit of an intro. My name is Gilad. I'm the CEO and founder of Moburst. We've been around in the last 12 years, helping companies to overachieve their growth goals. We are the growth agency behind Google and Microsoft, Uber, Samsung, Discovery, some of the largest beasts that you can think about when you're thinking about marketing and kind of brands. So we help with YouTube TV, YouTube Music, many of those very prolific type of brands, Dropbox and McAfee, and a lot of those very well-known brands, and a lot of startups that want to actually go from seed round to round A to round B to round C all the way to an IPO. And we're helping them with the creative media, organic, every single piece of how to get ranked on ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity, Claude, like all of the different elements to unlock the best potential on the organic side, on the paid media side, running ads on Facebook, Google, Snapchat, Pinterest, Quora, networks, RTBs, exchanges, influencers, what have you. So a lot of different departments that we have, a lot of different sets of capabilities, and a lot of different silos that each of them is like how they're working on different processes, on different protocols. We implemented AI in a very robust way in last year with a VP AI and 16 AI champions all around the company. We've done all of the mistakes that you can do on the book, and we are here to basically to share what are the learnings, what are the things that are working, what are the things that are not working, and very much excited to be here today.
Amazing. Definitely one of the most interesting stories I've heard as far as implementing into your own company. We're going to talk about that soon, if you wouldn't mind, with the whole champions concept. I loved it when I heard it. keep in mind, so as you come into, as guests into this webinar series, the idea is really to bring you different scopes of, how AI can be applied into business. How is it used? That's why I love the speaker trio that we have today, all the way from helping companies implement it outwards, inwards and outwards with Gilad. And then Gabriela, you give a completely different perspective here. I know you're MIT trained, and then you're also founder of Encode AI, right? Or Decode AI, I'm sorry.
Yes, DecodeMe. Yes, I am Gabriela Alfaro. I am software developer engineer. I work for more than 20 years on technology, on development systems. And I am mainly focused on human behavior. And I used to do things with a purpose across all the different areas in my life. So I decided from the scratch of my career to use technology, and in this specific case, I was specialized on MIT on healthcare AI, and I create DecodeMe, that is a software as a service that provides you the risk of misunderstanding text from text, the irony, the double meaning, the wordplay. This is helpful for at the beginning, born for the idea for neurodivergent people, but right now this is an issue that all the human being is facing with the digital era, right? Because all the messages are written, we don't have the one-to-one sound of the voice, we don't have the non-verbal expressions. So this is something that is transversal and is facing all the human being, and all the organizations are losing a lot of money related with this issue with communication. And the most important thing of this application also is that also analyze the power dynamics of a conversation, for example, or any kind of text that you can introduce there is already integrated with WhatsApp, with Slack, and you can use it to really be able to do a position between the speaker and who is receiving the message, right? Because you can identify if the other people is giving you pressure, for example, to close a contract, or is giving you signs in a way that is not working in a good position, is giving you signs of depression, of burnout. So there are many different verticals that you can use it, that is really amazing. The impact and the use of AI in this specific tool for me was like a very huge change in my career.
I think
Gal is freeze, I think.
yeah. Yes, Gal is frozen.
We, uh, first of all, companies, law firms, get from downwards, and then also speakers that specifically work with, by the way, universities as well, and in really kind of different formats. So, going to be very interesting to see the stories that we hear, and then can everybody hear me? Okay, by the way,
Yes,
getting
now
feeling
Now
that I
we
have
can
some
hear
bad
you.
connections.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that. Appreciate the patience. I'll put it that way. I'm still traveling, so hopefully it'll go smoothly afterwards. All right. With that being said, so first of all, I'm so sorry if I cut off anyone by chance, but I would like to say one of the main things that we've heard, so far from companies when they're looking for AI is, this concept of what are they trying to solve, right? And I think a lot of times the conversation kind of dissects into two ways. First of all is bottlenecks, right? Complex bottlenecks and how to resolve them. And then the other way is manual labor, which, funny enough, a lot of times it's pretty much one and the same, but that's the different type of conversation that we see businesses bring it up. So, really, we want you, first of all, to think about it this way. The questions is, if I had asked, what AI tools should we use? The real question really is more what manual decision or workflow is quietly costing us money, right? This is the type of framing that you do for AI to make it a business problem and not a tech one. So I want you, everyone here in the audience, first of all, to think about one question first, and that's what's the most manual, repetitive, or frustrating process in your company that you're dealing with right now? Um, I want to give you a couple of quick examples that we've had, that we've seen personally, and then we're going to go to the speakers and give your own examples and what you've seen from the clients you work with and the companies that you've worked with. But recently, we've had a travel company that started working with us, and they said, "Look, we've heard about all this AI. We really haven't jumped into it fully, but we know that we need to improve our workflows." And their main workflow was basically a manual expert that works about, on average, between 1 to 7 hours from the moment that they receive a group request, to try and get them a quote, connect all the dots, whether it's the geographical location, whether it's the needs, whether it's the vendors, pricing, everything else, and then connecting those dots and doing it all the way until they get an internal, margin revenues and external proposal for the client. Now, yes, there are approvals that at the end of the day, human in the loop is, necessary. But when you have someone that's doing the same task 50 times in the same week, that's probably a workflow that you can improve on. This is kind of where we've seen those examples come to fruition. I think our speakers have a lot of different examples from your end. Qasim, let's start with you. I know you spoke about the law firm. I don't know if you want to give examples from that world, any other companies you've worked with.
Yeah, for sure. So we've seen like tons and tons of examples. And these are like not just sprinkling AI on top of whatever they're doing. Like I think these are like real world use cases that have driven impact. So starting with the law firm. So for the law firm, like a lot of work in law firms happens when attorneys need to go through hundreds or thousands of pages of documents and extract the right information. So one of the products that we built for them was for to basically draft some sort of legal cases. I can't get more specific than that, but generally to draft a legal to draft a case, you have to basically go through the complaint and then through hundreds of other documents that go with that, and then you have to extract relevant information from each document. And just that time alone is not, we're not talking about 5, 10, 20, 30 hours. It's hundreds of hours of legal time that goes into it. So we're not automating the entire flow, but we're automating parts of it, basically enabling lawyers to be able to search through these thousands of documents without having to go through one after the other. And this is not just um, keyword search. This is like natural language search, semantic search, where you can just say, okay, did this conversation happen at any point in time? And then the AI goes through these thousands of documents and is able to pinpoint. So this saves them like 99% of time, because this is such a manual process of having to go line by line, and keyword search just doesn't work. So that's like one example. The first agent we built for them does this for from a document that's like 200 to 300 pages. It would take an attorney that's paid anywhere from $300 to $700 an hour to do that work. Now we can do it in 3 minutes using 3 to 4 agents. So we have an agent that does the job, and then we have some reflection agents that make sure that it's accurate and it's not hallucinating. So that's one example. We're building multiple internal tools with them, but there's like some sort of underlying themes of basically automating and getting context from a lot of documentation. Another one is in real estate. So automating the workflow, the underwriting workflow for a real estate company to basically make decisions. So this was so interesting for us because the real estate company we're working with already has like an internal document and criteria of how they make decisions. So that is something that they use, that's their IP, and they say it works incredibly well. But for them to get to that position, they again have to go through a lot of documentation to be able to figure out the price of the property, the location, how many rooms it has, etc., etc. And then based on that information and their historical data, they have a set of details on which they make decisions. So we've automated that for them, where we ingest all of that information, and then the AI basically has their past information on which we built evals, so it can determine and suggest, okay, this is a good property to look at or a bad property to look at. And their bottleneck was not being able to buy properties. Their bottleneck was being able to filter through the right buildings, which was taking the most amount of time. So it's interesting, like the actual validation that is happening there is figuring out what to buy and what not to buy, and going manually through all of these buildings and all of these documents, and then figuring out if it's a relevant building or not, versus the AI saying, oh, I just took a look at 100 buildings or proposals. These are the five that you should look more carefully into, and these 95 don't work because these are specific, very specific reasons that they might not be the right ones for you. So there's still humans in the loop. We are very, so at Ember, we're all about having humans in the loop, but having AI assist them in deciding what five to look at versus having them go through 100 different buildings. So that's another use case. There's there's a bunch of more. So for example, another company that we are working with has this is probably one of the most interesting ones. Um, they work with the government, and getting invoices approved through the government is an insanely difficult process and has a bunch of instructions. So if an invoice does not get approved, it gets delayed by anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. Their working capital gets affected. So they have to now wait for that money to come in, redo the work. So we built agents to basically automate and check every invoice to make sure it conforms to the government rules and regulations and however they want to get it approved, which is another one. And these are like, I could go on for like the entire hour, but like there's like so many specific use cases which are like 80-90% saving time to organizations, which is pretty mind blowing for us. And then lastly, we have our base platform where it ingests all the company information that employees can use to ask about the HR policy, talk about, okay, what tool should I use that company has access to, and stuff like that, which is same across every organization. But these were specific use cases based on different industries that we've seen.
All right. So here's two things that I've heard right off the top that I love. First of all, reflection. And I love that you said it. I think it's, almost a guardrail, if you will, but there's a systemic way to use reflection, and then you've utilized it in the platform as well for the companies to reflect on what they do. But on the other hand, and I think this is one of the most important thing for as we start this series to understand, for all of our speakers and for all of our audience and future audience, is there is so many different ways to implement AI in across different industries. And it's not about finding a tool that, it's a one and all fix that solves everything. It's about finding exactly how you can, and I think you've said it in all three, I'm pretty sure, but it's like, this was extremely manual. This was a workflow that took a lot of time, that took a lot of, heavy lifting, and then how to solve it into something that's a lot more efficient. Doesn't mean necessarily, correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't mean necessarily it has to be AI throughout, but it's about putting humans in the loop in the right way and then putting the information in front of them.
Yes. Yep. 100%.
Well, I think that is a very interesting topic because there is something that into the culture right now, there are too many marketing around AI, and the companies say, okay, I want to implement AI, and they even don't know about what they want, or if they have the knowledge and the tools and the flows and all the things that they need to say, okay, we can implement this solution with AI. Because maybe it's more simply and cheap and effective just to create a custom solution, not using AI. But they want like the label to say we are using AI.
Absolutely. And I think this goes to say, and I've heard it so much from the recent conversations, is, there is the hype of AI that, the majority of the people, not as much in this audience, I believe, but the majority of people that says, hey, AI started when ChatGPT came out, where really it's 20 years and far backwards. So the idea is to understand where AI can actually be implemented. You gave some beautiful examples. Gilad, I think you have a completely different perspective, both internally into your own company and then on big corporates, and giants, conglomerates that work very slowly, right? How does that look over there?
Yeah, I think that basically with the way that we are working, we try to rethink about every single process that we are doing in the company. And basically, the task that I've given to our employees in 2025 was that if you're doing the same thing as if you were doing it in 2024, you're doing it wrong. Now let's rethink about every single process that sucks up time. And when I'm thinking about like what the priority needs to be based on what are we burning the most time on a weekly basis. So every single team needed to reflect and saying, okay, so the thing that costs us the most time is weekly reports. The thing that costs us the most time is analysis. The thing that costs us the most time is actually sketching things for the creative team for new concepts or ideation, or like each and every team kind of needed to say, how much time are they actually spending? What is the most labor intensive task that they have throughout the week? And then based on that, trying to see how many people are actually doing these tasks. And then based on that, how much would it be worth for us to solve that and that no one will ever need to do that again? And based on that, prioritizing where should we actually start? Once you identify those things, then you actually start mapping out the potential solutions for that. So sometimes the solution could be very, very complex because now you need a data infrastructure that every single person in the company will report to exactly the same folders and then like connecting all of the dots. And that will take forever because we need to get everyone on the same CRM or another system, and it's siloed on different systems. And now it's going to be a massive headache. And you have other things that saying, hey, okay, this is very easy. This is custom GPT, or this is like N8N, or these are like quick fixes that are, within less than a day, we can just solve. So obviously you're starting with the simpler things. This is like how life is usually is. I found that once a team actually has a success with a very small thing that they manage to solve, they get the empathy and saying, hey, I want to do more. I believe in that. I see the value, and because of that, I need to do more. And then we basically started to identify the needs on every single department in the company. So the sales side, for example, we found that our sales reps are basically getting a lot of inbound leads, and because they're getting a lot of inbound leads, they're going through every single one of the messages. Who is that company? What they want? How much they raised? What are they looking for? What are the things that they gone through? Oh, they came from Facebook. Oh, they came from these ads. They came from, and all of those things. And now, what are they looking for? Oh, they are looking at this solution for SEO. They are looking for media buying, and each and every one of those things. And then if their budget is qualified, they're not qualified. And if it is, then let's schedule a meeting. So it's a lot of manual process of going through all of those things and doing some research about this company before you are replying. And we saw that basically if someone is reaching out to us on Friday, they will probably get an answer on Monday, which means they are basically sitting there a few days before they're actually getting an answer. And that's something that doesn't make any sense in today's world. So, okay, how can we actually create an automation that basically does exactly what the sales rep is actually doing? So what is the level of research that we need to do and understand, okay, should we actually send the email with a meeting link that is also including one of the senior management as part of that conversation, or just the sales rep? Or if it's a Gmail and we are not sure about the budget, let's ask the 5 or 4 questions to make sure that it's worth to actually have a scheduling a meeting link. So we weren't going to waste a lot of time on irrelevant meetings and things of that nature, and starting to create like a flow of something that within 5 minutes you're getting an automated message that looks very, very personalized based on who you are, what you're looking for. Like, we already inspected your website, we inspected already so many things, we already know what we are coming into, we are very excited to actually meet you, and this is the open slots and things of that nature. And that saved the sales team around 30 to 40 minutes every day, just for example, with all of the leads that are coming in. So that's, again, a small example, but the fact that we didn't just make it that it saves the time, but we are also replying so much faster for every single lead in any hour of the day, makes less leads of actually saying, okay, we reached out to this agency and that agency and that agency and that agency. They answered faster, so we're just hopping on calls with them and not with this one. So when you're inspecting the processes, a lot of times you're finding a lot of inefficiency that is not just about AI, just based on the fact that how we're actually doing things and how much more efficient we can actually be when doing them in a different scale. When you think about creative solutions and basically building, you have VO3 and you have Sora, you have Nano Banana, you have so many engines that are doing phenomenal things today, but how are you actually creating a new creative solution when you're thinking about how to create, that storytelling part and and being brand persistent and things of that nature, and how to actually create that type of a thing that it will align with the brand guidelines, and it will align with like the brief, and it will align with the goal of what we are trying to do for this campaign, and it will align with the best practices of what works on LinkedIn is different than what works on Facebook, and it's different than what works on Google ads. And here you need a square, and here you need a landscape, portrait, GIF, static ad, like so many different types, and checking all of those things. And basically, once you are agreeing on a concept, creating the solution that will actually use the same elements and basically helping us to produce that in a much better scale. When you think about the organic side or the media buying side, the amount of reports that they are doing was insane. Every single week, what worked for us, what didn't work for us on every single media and every single platform, massive amount of waste of time. So automatically exporting all of the data from all of the different platforms into a dashboard, and then taking that from that dashboard and pulling it into a Google Slides, and within that Google Slides, design that Google Slides based on our brand guidelines and the client brand guidelines, and then creating the deck that's going to be, let's say, 40 slides type of a deck, and now the media manager goes through that saying, well, this slide, yeah, it gives the information about what happened last week, but it's not as meaningful. So we can just remove that. We can delete that. We can adjust that. These two things, those are the top things that we have to focus on, because these are the things that are the most meaningful. So it's not like it's doing everything automatically, but it pulls the data, just like export the data from what happens from Facebook, Google, Snapchat, Pinterest, Quora, every single one of those platforms, putting it on a sheet, and then start to look on that and creating graphs. Anything too meaningful, but in here, this is massive. Like, this is the trend that we have to cover. So all of those things are basically being mapped out and basically saying what are the things that will help us the most and will bring the most value for the client. So I feel like on every single one of the different occasions, whether it's on the organic side, on the HR side, like taking CVs from 5 of different platforms and pushing them into the same CRM, and then prioritizing what's going to be the most relevant for every single new role that we are opening, or from the finance team creating like automated reports based on like estimations and predictions on where we will close this quarter or this year. On the strategy division, basically they have so much subscription tools, so pushing the information from all of the different platforms and basically being able to render that every week instead of every month or every quarter for the clients, to say these are the trends that are actually changing. This is the things that your competitors are doing that have changed in the past week. So like a lot of those things that if a manual person needs to go through and actually store a lot of data points, and now we can just make those things much more effective, save us obviously a massive amount of time. I'm not even talking about roles that are just completely redundant now. Like, we used to have account executives in the company, and the account executives will be going in for like note writing and then Asana tasks for every single team. We have completely automated that, and there is no need for that, because we have these type of automations that coming into the meeting, getting us the note takers, and then the note takers is breaking it based on the understanding that client and who are the team that is actually working on that client, and basically creating all of those Asana tasks with the full description of what happened in the last meeting, and it saves so much time and so much disconnect between the remote teams. We have teams around 16 countries around the world, just transferring the data from one another, what happened in the past week and things like nature. Massive amount of wasted time. So a lot of each and every one of the different things, like we have departments that are creating products that are actually solving like a completely different type of a scale of a problem, where we are dedicating a lot of resources, and that will be a strategic benefit for us in the future. But we have also the teams that are working, the 16 AI champions, that are basically working on creating small agents that are just helping you out through the day, and you can just tag someone on Slack or on Asana or things like that nature, and an AI agent gives you back that information that you need, that was kind of transferring from 12 other teams in the company, and just brings you that in a matter of a second. In any other case, it will just take you so long to actually have all of those things that are redundant and things that are just not very efficient. So I feel like, again, we've done so many mistakes and so many things when we started to create it. We can talk about the mistakes and how we're actually avoiding them. But I feel like if you're thinking about examples, it's very, very meaningful of how much time you can save every single day, outside of, yeah, sure, I'm using Gemini, I'm using ChatGPT, but those are the obvious, giving a score for something that you just created. Give me a score from 1 to 10. Okay, it gives me 9. Okay, how do I get it to 10? How can I perfect it? These are the obvious things, but you can actually take it so much further to make sure that you're as efficient as you can with everything you do.
Well, first of all, I've seen your recent post about, using ratings for your slide decks, right? We're going to talk about that a little bit later. I love that. But, just to make sense of this, as far as the champions, which, it took me a minute to understand what you did there, but there's two things that I've gotten from you, in the previous conversation now that I absolutely loved. At the end of the day, one, you started small, right? You told them, hey, let's go start something, find some solutions because it's better to get some wins and say, hey, this is actually useful, and the way that I used it already, instead of that huge, this is AI and how do I even start? And then secondly, which was extremely important, is you've actually implemented, champions in each and every department to look at what this department could do even better, could do faster beyond the regular basic use of AI in the everyday. It's not about going to ChatGPT and asking it the questions that you need answers for. It's about finding the frameworks that would help you gain the insights for them to work faster, right? So I think this is a brilliant way of understanding that. But what I'm hearing the most, and I've heard that throughout the conversation and the context you've provided about your company, as well as about working with big companies as well, is discovery, and how important is the discovery phase of understanding the problem. It's almost like Einstein said, 95% of the time you focus on the question, on the finding the right question, you'll only need 5% for finding the right answer, right? And I think that discovery in AI is everything. It's about making sure that you understand, first of all, before I just go and build, how can we really implement this the right way? Now, keep in mind, with our audience and our future guests as well, I think it kind of separates into different categories. First of all, it's daily routine, agents that work within the company. Second one is tools to work for companies, right? I think Serena, you had a beautiful example there. And then we've also had ones that are creating different implementations and workflows as well. So discovery is everything. I know Qasim had to go at the end of half of the hour, but one thing that I know he wanted to also mention on that end was that what they do is always focus on discovery first and then actually implement a prototype solution before they even start working with clients. Gabriela, I know I spoke to you about that as well, about making sure that you avoid the hype and focus on frameworks and discovery. I think I've said this to so many people in the last few weeks, but if you think about the new 80-20 rule, is how I call it, 80% of the people are going to get FOMO and are going to go after people that offer them the world as far as AI, and they'll promise them the world as far as solutions for their companies, and they're not going to get what they actually hope for. And the problem with that is that, now everybody thinks they can provide AI, whatever they understand AI to be, right? Smaller scale, big scale. And then, when the business owner, and I want to focus actually on non-tech industries, take construction, for example. I've been in that industry for years and years. You still have companies that are millions and tens of millions of dollars in cycles, and they still use spreadsheets. And when they look at AI, it's like, how can this solve this for me? But that's not always the right question. It's about, well, what do you currently have, right? What's the framework? What's the current workflows, big and small, but it's discovery first. So I know Qasim mentioned that as well. Gilad, you mentioned that as well. And by the way, I see some questions in the chat. Love that you answer them, Gilad. Please, anyone, do throw as many questions as you have. This is why we have our speakers here. They took a very good amount of their time to make sure they answer anything you guys have. Gabriela, how does it work with universities? I know you've recently worked with, I believe, Stanford. And then,
yeah.
And you have some great communication with them. What do you see as the forecast, and then how do they look at that, especially concerning discovery as well?
Well, I was talking, and I am having a very amazing conversations with Stanford with the Dr. Lawrence Fung. He is the director. He's a psychiatrist, and he handled all the medical environment and behavior related with neurodiversity persons. And it is amazing because when I said to him that I create a tool that is AI, but is built to disappear, He said, what? And I said, yes, because I want, there are three different stages that DecodeMe covers. That first is the assistive phase, then you have the interpretive, but then with the recurrence of the user using the tool, the idea is to have autonomy in the person that is using the tool, right? So in this case, the AI is being used to create culture, to educate people, and to give them tools to fully understand and to improve the communication, right? This is something that for Stanford was very amazing because they are creating a project to create like a snapshot profile for the people, to create safe spaces, to give the good treatment, and try to accommodate all the efforts around the specific needs for that person. But when they heard about DecodeMe, they say, okay, the communication is something that we need to pay attention, because it's not only the stimuli, the sensory perception, is how we can communicate better. Because and I want to give a very common, and everybody knows about this scenario. Do you remember the Pepsi commercial that they offer an airplane as prize if you raise I think that it was 7 million Pepsi points? You will be able to redeem for a jet, for a Harrier jet. And one person took that commercial literally, and he raised the amount of points and went to the court because they said, okay, I have the points, I won my plane, or the equivalent amount of money. But the court say, okay, no, this was really a joke. But in that scenario, Pepsi lost the actions went down, and the credibility was a very big impact because they didn't measure the impact of the words of the communication. Not all the people is getting the same message in the same way that you are trying to give. So the idea is to create autonomy in the individuals, but also, for example, for companies, the same tool can be used to prevent this kind of risk. And another scenario that is a real use case that I face all the time. I am manager on technology and cloud in a company, and I manage teams from India, US, Brazil, Argentina. We have many different cultures and time zones, and the communication costs money for us, because maybe we are requesting some kind of work that in India they have 12 hours difference, and if they misunderstood what I am saying, they are losing 1 day of work, right? And another point is that maybe I am telling you a joke, for example, or a phrase that here in Argentina is very common, like "Gal, you are a banana." For me, it's like saying you are very, very funny, but maybe you take that like something unrespectful. So you need to be able to communicate and fully understand the different contexts and the cultural meaning of the phrases in the different teams, right? When you are managing teams across all the world. And that is something that is happening in all days. That's why also the companies are trying to come back again to the on-site to prevent these kind of failures, this kind of lose money on reworks, on redoing explanations all over again because they are misunderstanding the scopes, or they don't have the objectives clear enough, or a message from human resources is not being taken as they expected by the people that is listen the communication. And you need to fully understand what is the impact, because you need to be able to prevent that kind of things.
So this is now communication, which I love this type of subject. First of all, I come from psychology and communication, was kind of the my league that I was playing with, especially back in the days when I was doing business more than startups, and communication is everything. And I think the context for me that is that when you said it's not only about the communication.
Oh, you are cutting. But I know what we are trying to say. The communication is the most important thing with the context. I can say something, and I am in a specific context with a specific humor and understanding, and you are receiving the same message, the same written message, but you are in a different context. You have a different idea. You have different feelings. So the meaning of the same text can be interpreted in different ways. And also, you can use the language and the communications to manipulate other people also. And well, that is for psychology, and that is a tremendous word. But that is something that micromanagement is affecting too many different teams doing this kind of power dynamics in not a good way to utilize it to improve the objectives. Is more used to control and to see if they are working, I don't know, 10 hours a day, and they are not measuring objectives, and they are using the communication in a wrong way. Instead of encouraging the people to do the work, they are stressing them. They are giving the idea of do not accomplish the objectives, and it's a never-ending story, right? I think that there are.
Absolutely. And I would say, first of all, it seems like the pattern I'm noticing is that if I speak after Gabriela, my computer is losing it. So I apologize in advance. It seems like we have some reception issues. But I would love to speak about this. First of all, what Ralph said in the chat, I agree with completely. And I love the chat conversations, by the way. I think I know most of you already, at least through one conversation or more. So please do engage. Now, communication is everything. And I think communication goes, first of all, as far as how to align communication. If you've noticed here, every single person had a different accent today,
Yeah,
right? This is the
yeah,
the you know the global world that we work in today. I don't think I've worked in a single company in the last 5 years that didn't have like people from all over the world. Which language
exactly.
barriers is just as critical as culture barriers. And I think in both of
Yep,
them, like Ralph said, like you explained so well, it's about understanding how to take them long term, as far as resolutions, and then saving that amount of time. I can give you, when you said it hurt. And this is what I told everyone here, like I'm going to speak about everything blunt. And one of the things I can tell you, remote base, that I absolutely love, but we work with staff augmentation that's mostly in Pakistan and Brazil. And, language barrier is a very, very real thing.
yeah.
Communication, culture barriers can be just as critical. So, it's extremely important to understand how these solutions can actually help us. And those
We lose you again, Gal.
Yeah.
oops, I
Well,
did it
finally,
again.
just. With
All right. So I would like to just bring one more thing in regards to communication. I'm sorry about all the hiccups here. It does happen, still in 2026, apparently. So communication wise, Gilad, you had a post today that almost, irked me because I am a true user of that framework. And I've also been, on the other side of it of saying, well, I don't like the criticism. But you've, explained a framework where you say, I need critical guidance and, I need clear communications about what is wrong so I can understand how to operate right? Take away emotions, take away the other things. So, locking into the communication aspect, first of all, if you can explain briefly the whole slide deck and how do you look at it for, being critical against my own self, but then also how did you utilize those communications, if you don't mind me asking, whatever you can share with the big companies, right? With the not just the champions in your departments, but with huge companies that expect a lot from you.
Sure. So one of the things that we are doing on every single deck before we are basically sharing it with a client, we are trying to be ruthless about that. And maybe not every single team in the company is doing it, but I know that I'm trying to get all of my management team to exactly follow the same process of taking this deck and basically giving it the context of a prompt saying, this deck is about the quarterly business review of this and this client. This is what they're trying to do. This is their goals. This is their objectives or what have you. Give me a score from 1 to 10 or 1 to 100 on this deck. How well does it solve this specific the goal, what it's supposed to be doing? And I'm asking it from both ChatGPT and Gemini. And basically, I'm telling it on the prompt, like, don't be nice, don't be polite, don't give me the things that are working for that. I don't care about that. Like I know that it's good enough. If it wasn't good enough, I wouldn't even send that to you. But I want to know what we are doing wrong there, and give me a score between 1 to 100. So sometimes when we are getting an answer back that's saying, "Hey, it's a 93 out of 100," it's saying, "Okay, like it's in a very very good spot." Sometimes when we are getting 64 out of 100, we're saying, "Holy crap! Like we missed the mark." Basically, if this is what we are trying to achieve, or this is the goal of this specific doc, and basically it gives us a score that is not good enough, we are obviously asking the right next thing of saying, okay, what should we actually improve? What is missing to be able to hit those specific things? What are the things that are the most important learnings or insights that I can actually improve there? And it's not just about, designing it more nicely or things of that nature, but sometimes the narrative of the deck, sometimes it's like the tone of the deck is like much more accusing or much more apologetic than what it needs to be because the situation is X or Y. So the type of comments that you're getting from those engines, and by the way, I always ask both ChatGPT and Gemini. I think that there are things that Gemini is doing much better than ChatGPT and vice versa. So I want to take the consolidating the feedback from both of them and basically saying, I might agree with some of those points, and then obviously I'm changing them, and I might disagree with that and still sending it as it is to the client and moving forward. But most of the times it highlights my blind spots. It highlights things that I didn't think about. And if it highlights those things, I want to make sure that we are kind of patching them before I'm sending it to the client. And a lot of times it saves us the back and forth. We also started to do that on creative materials production. So every single time that we create a new creative for a client, for example, we used to basically send the client a new concept, new design, new what have you. And then basically we're taking that into Slack and basically connecting Slack into the system and basically also connecting the feedback loop from a meeting when we had a meeting with a client. And then basically learning what the client likes, what the client hates. And based on that feedback, we start kind of saying, hey, be as critical as this client. Would the client like this type of design? Will the client like this type of deliverable? And if not, what are the things that we are missing out the mark? So, hey, they don't like explanation points. They don't like that it ends with a question mark. They are not really sure about this thing. It can actually rely to their competitor that they don't really like to be assembled to or what have you. So a lot of things that, when you have a large team and you have designers and art directors and copywriters and a creative director and VP create, like a lot of people in a lot of countries, and sometimes you're working on video assets, which means the video team, and sometimes like the creative team that is more on the static things, and sometimes it's the user generated content team, sometimes it's the influencer team, and a lot of feedback that we got from the client was to one team, but now another team comes up with another solution that might be resemble or might be. So all of those feedback loops that we want to basically avoid of having the client giving us the same feedback again, are this type of a feedback loop process that we built to make us be less wrong on things that we already can save us the time and basically send something that is not as high end as it should be, based on or previous feedback, or feedback from the AI as like act as if you are this specific persona. So we created another like process of getting feedback from, let's say, a client has 6 different personas of buyers, of who is their ideal buyers. So we trained like custom GPTs of act as if you are 30 to 40 years old female that likes Rihanna, that does la. And based on all of those things, we are sending out the creative. How would you act with this? Like, how would you actually rate this type of a thing? Does it fit to your criteria, to what you like, or things like nature? And then we are getting the score from the 6 different personas that we are going after, and making sure that we are refining it to actually hit more of all that specific persona, or in general, like the vast majority of the personas that we are going after. So a lot of those feedback loops could be very tailor made to what type of output you are looking for, and a lot of times just save you time on blind spots of things that, hey, I really like that concept, but you know what, now when I'm looking on the critique that we got before from the AI, from the client, from the team, or from brand guidelines, or what have you, wow, we didn't think about that. It could be interpreted also in this way, and therefore let's ditch that. It's not good enough, or it doesn't fit, or things of that nature. So it's just another like kind of mirror in front of you, like another sounding board, to actually be able to say, have I done everything I can to make sure that this is the best deliverable that I can produce? And if it is, fantastic. If it's not, again, we can change it. But it's, I think that like in general in AI, you're kind of in the chef position. You're not sure how the kitchen made that type of a dish, but you're tasting it. And if it tastes good, fantastic. But if it's missing salt, or if it's too bitter or something like that, obviously you just know that something isn't there just yet. And me as one person, I could be like, very subjective of what I think. But when I'm sending it also to my PhD on ChatGPT, and another PhD on Gemini, they will give me another type of feedback that I might be missing. So I'll just be able to be much smarter around those things. Even before I'm sharing them, I know also like what are the things that might actually come back to me and saying, hey, you know what, this is not quite there yet, or things of that nature.
One thing that, sorry if I am interrupting
No, go
you,
ahead.
but one thing related with feedback that I want to share very, very quick, because I need to leave also. I had a real scenario, that a person wrote me because he analyzed an email that he wrote to the company because he was leaving. He was changing the company to another. He was moving to another one, and he analyzed the complete email, and he told me, I cannot believe that I was expressing these kind of things, that I didn't figure it out. I was not conscious about, I was expressing the need to continue with the relationship with my colleagues. And that is something that encourage us to say, okay, we can create tools that helps people also, that we can continue learn. AI can be our ally in this era also. It's not something that is going to replace all human beings. We can do things to really settle the basis, to say, okay, I can find out my own tools, but I am trying to understand more about me also. And this is something that it was amazing, because I didn't request that feedback. It was like, Gabby, I need to tell you, he didn't know me. He reached me out by LinkedIn, but he told me, I need to tell you that I cannot believe what happened with me using DecodeMe. I find out that I was expressing too much things that I didn't know. And that is something that, in my case, was amazing, because I said, okay, we are in the good way. And I love to give that kind of tools, and to have the feeling that the client is learning, the people is learning, because everything is related with education also, right?
Learning is everything, and always be learning, first of all.
All
I
life.
am the
We are
biggest fan
learning
of that.
all life.
Uh, Absolutely. So I think this is a great example, and we can start wrapping up with that idea. Is I actually love that example, and I think it reflects perfectly on what Gabriela just says. The chef, right? The chef example is like, you are the chef of this tool, and this tool is going to work, with whatever kitchen you already have. but at the end of the day, you need to figure out what it is that it's giving you, and how to fine tune it. We understand it tells you it might be a little bitter, might be a little sweeter, but how do I now start to understand it in better ways? And we've heard throughout, this meeting and through this engagement, first of all, reflection, right? Second is discovery. And then third is creating these type of role plays, by the way, Gilad, that you mentioned, and I absolutely love, by the way, especially coming from marketing, of course. But, it's role playing of like, how do I, think about my clients or about whoever is receiving my product in any way possible, and then how do I confirm that this is actually the discovery that I need? So it's not just about discovery, it's about creating feedback loops that make sense, with that level of discovery. Extremely interesting. I would say that for a first episode, we've gained a lot, and I appreciate it so much from all three speakers. I appreciate the audience as well. Future episodes, we will have some more engaging questions that we throw in the chat as well. Honestly, I just want to be extremely blunt, as I always am. These speakers were extremely fascinating for me, so I actually dropped my questions and said, I want to hear a little bit more of this. For me, this is how a great episode should look like. So first of all, I hope everyone got a good idea of this. Please, if you don't mind, share your links, Gilad, Gabriela. If you're looking to connect with Qasim, you can simply connect through and I'll make the connection. And then in general, please feel free to let me know. And other than that, I want to thank Gilad, Gabriela, and Qasim for a wonderful episode. Extremely, extremely good education for us. And then I also appreciate how you've been looking at AI. And honestly, I'm hoping to see you in a future episode as well and kind of see what was the gap
For sure.
that got closed during that time, because I think it's going to be pretty major. Awesome.
Thank
Good.
Well, first of all, thank you for everyone. Let me know if you have any questions, follow-ups. Appreciate everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.